This is the review for LEGO's X-Pod, the green Robopod. This set was originally released in 2004 and contains 48 pieces. The original 4 X-Pods were released under the designer line, which had a total of 11 sets, including these, 7 of which were box sets. The designer line was intended that you take whatever parts were in the box, you can follow the instructions, build what was in the instructions, or get ideas from the pictures outside the instructions. The X-Pods themselves were more travel-oriented versions of the designer sets, where you had a container with parts in it, as well as the container was compatible with those parts, and you could take them quickly wherever you wanted. We would later see the designer line evolve into the creator line, which would become more commonly known in the modern era. Now, taking a look at the X-Pod container itself, at the top we have a simple twist-off lid. The lid itself is a Lego piece with 4 studs and an axle hole on the inside. If I can focus on it. There it is. Inside we have a trans-clear container which houses all our pieces, and the lid just twists on easily. At the back we have a bottom which has 4 anti-studs as well as an axle hole at the bottom, so you can put a pin through it, or an axle through there. Taking off the bottom we have a transparent cover which has a multitude of studs as well as a pinhole in the center. So there are a lot of options with these containers. Now these containers are modular. The lid and the bottom can connect like so and become a fancy disc. Now, taking another container, you could also connect the containers if you had a multitude of X-Pods, allowing you to create a stack of X-Pods, if you will, if you have enough. And now, dumping out the parts, you can see that they're not very substantial parts. They're not very large bricks that you see in your everyday classic sets. A lot of these parts are small, simple 1x2 tiles, 1x2 tiles with a single stud, a few ratcheted hinge joints, a few of these pieces, I don't know what they're called. The most substantial parts you'd probably get in this set is this brick with a slope in it. Other than that, they're very small parts, so it can fit in the very small container. The container itself, I forgot to mention, is only about 3 inches or 8 centimeters long, and it's about an inch and a half tall, or that's about 4 to 5 centimeters. So, anyway, let's bring in the instructions, and which are a little roughed up over age. I was pretty rough on this set as a kid. So, yeah, let's build the first model. So, the first model and the instructions. Overall, this guy is small. He only measures in at, found my tape measure, about 3 inches or 7.5 centimeters. Well, maybe like 2 3/4 inches. 7 centimeters though on the dot. Anyway, so overall he uses all the pieces but 4. This beige piece, which I don't even know what that's called. 2 of these 1x2 tiles with studs, and a red stud. Overall, he's pretty good. He is a tiny little robot, which the name implies from the RoboPod. So, articulation-wise, the head can swivel. The arms can move up and down on this soft hinge. It's not a ball joint, it's just a hinge. And then he has a ratcheted joint at... Oh, jeez, I pulled it off. A ratcheted joint just below the shoulder. And then he has an elbow bend on this hinge here. So he can move all the way up, point that far up. It can go all the way down until it hits the legs, and it's the same on both sides. On his left arm, he has this little blaster, I guess it's supposed to be, so he can pew-pew things. And on his other arm, he has a hand. It's just a standard clip, Lego clip in black, covered up with a 1x2 tile. And articulation's the same. Can go up all the way, can go down until it hits the legs. The legs are interesting. Get the arms out of the way. You can move the arms out, or legs out that far, and then the feet move out that far. Inward, they move in, and the feet can go all the other way. So feet have full motion, but the full motion is only side to side, which is a bit of a hindrance, but it works. So you can do a crab walk.
What are you doing?
I'm walking here.
Yeah, so that is the first little robot in the RoboPod. Let's move on to the second one. So this is the second little robot that the instructions show you how to build, and he's cute. He is weird and cute. In terms of articulation, he has a hinge for his eyes, which I think is super clever for eyes, and then his arms can move all the way forward and about that far back. Pretty natural. His little gun thing can rotate on this hinge. The claws are actually the hinge joints, and they pull off the claws look very well, I think. It's a good look. And then his feet is on a hinge joint here, and they can move all the way back and all the way forward. So he can look like he's leaping, or I don't know. It's a weird run look if you want to pull it off, but he can do it. I don't know. He's silly looking, and he's kind of articulated, but he's weird at the same time. Balance-wise, it's not that good. As soon as you take the feet out of a pose, well, as soon as you move the feet in any direction other than flat, he falls over, which is kind of unfortunate. So, unless you want him laying on his back, which he actually lays flat on his back too, so you can have him going like a tank. I don't know. He's weird and silly, and he pulls it off very well. The only complaint I have is this gap, which could have been filled with like one of these extra pieces, which, speaking of which, there are 14 extra pieces left over from when you build this. Of course, this is a designer set. This is what they were initially intended for, just messing with pieces. So, but, you know, each his own. So if you wanted to add that, you can. I personally would add that just so it helps fill in this gap down here. So yeah, overall he's good. He's a good little robot. And yeah, let's move on to the last robot in the instructions. So this last model is some kind of weird bug X-Pod hybrid. It's funny looking, but it pulls it off very well. I just love it. It pulls off robot and bug all together. Just great. So on the top half of the pod itself, we got these eye stalks, which jut out, as well as this I don't know, antenna, I guess you could say. It looks like a weird nose. The eye stalks are on this hinge, so they can hinge up and down. Down. They hinge down. And then they're also on this swivel piece, so they can look up and they can look flat down. There's nothing at the head unless you want to rotate the pod itself, but it only goes one way. It can go all the way around, and you can remove it. If I can get it on. There we go. And then coming down to the feet are on these hinges. This one's very floppy on mine, but that's due to age. And they move side to side. They can move all the way back. And yeah, they just help this guy keep stable. And yeah, he's weird. He works as a little model X-Pod toy. It's nothing that I would have built on my own. Now, cool thing about this version of the model is you can actually take all the extra pieces, which this guy leaves 10 pieces out. You can put them all inside and still play with them. And he makes a good maraca. So, yeah, there's not much more to say. In terms of like color distribution and all that, all these models work pretty good. The main colors are green and burgundy or tan. No, not burgundy's red. Yeah, these are tan. Like, no, beige. Beige, that's the color. Green and beige, and then blacks here and there, and silver parts. So overall, I think the colors work good on all of them. And now let's go over here are the instructions for the set. Building instructions are pretty standard. There's no real pictures until you get to the end of the model, where it shows you other ideas as well as the next set you're building or the next model you're building. And then another picture. And then at the end of it, you actually get instructions for a combo model. I will probably do this in another video. This one features the yellow and the green one. Each X-Pod has different instructions for different combo models. So everyone is different, giving you a total of 4 different combo models. And then at the end of it, shows you the other model or other sets you can get: the Autopod, the Aeropod, I think it's called, and then the Animal Pod. And then it shows all the combo models at the... So overall, I think this is a really fun little set. Yeah, it's a good designer set meant for travel. So if you want to take it somewhere on a trip or something, it is perfect for that. It has enough pieces to be fully accessible and creative with whatever kind of robot-like thing you want to build. That's what these parts are meant to invoke, is that robot feel. And it definitely pulls it off, especially with the 3 models it gives within the instructions. So yeah, I think that's everything I need to say. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and check out more of my content.